So ergo, every company in the world is capitalized on a capital asset that's bleeding 10% of their economic value every year. There's 50,000 public companies. The 500 greatest ones are in the S&P 500. Most of them are US based. And then of the 500, 493 of them are failing, and there's 7 that are winning. Every public company in the world is capitalized on euro debt or US dollar debt for 100 years. And now you have a commodity that's a scarcity, that it's legal to capitalize a public company. You take $50 million, you buy Bitcoin with it, you have a $50 million business growing 60% a year. There's not a single company in Europe growing 60% a year. You know, if it's not going to zero, it's going to 1 million.
150 companies are racing for an asset that, for years ago, only one company dared to touch. Michael Saylor, executive chairman of strategy, says the shift has been fast. For years ago, one company was figuring out Bitcoin. Today, 150 compete to use it as a long-term capital asset. Saylor calls Bitcoin the only true digital commodity, the only institutional-grade digital asset, as more investors see it as both digital gold and digital capital. Here's the twist. Bitcoin is the largest digital asset class by market cap, yet most of its supply sits idle. As of early 2026, about 19.8 million BTC are mined, worth $1.70 to $2 trillion. Only 10 to 15% of Bitcoin is institutionally held, Saylor says. Most individuals still sell for liquidity, but he believes that's fading, which could push Bitcoin higher. Long-term holders are sitting on profits, sell-side pressure is easing, and Bitcoin has consolidated around $65,000 for 4 weeks. That could be a bear market bottom, though past bear markets lasted about a year, so some warn this bounce could be temporary. Here's the human side. Many people bought Bitcoin for around $1,000, and now it's worth roughly $100,000. Some sell 5 to 10% of their holdings to fund their lifestyle. Saylor says that's because Bitcoin is now a $2 trillion asset class, yet most of the world still can't borrow against it. If this helped you see Bitcoin differently, subscribe to Bitcoin Frontier Hub. We're new, you're new, and every subscriber gets closer to 1,000.
Today, there's 150 public companies that are all vying to use Bitcoin as long-term capital. And 4 years ago, there was one public company that was trying to figure out what are we going to do with Bitcoin. And so the market's changed, the structure's changed, the capital has changed, the leverage has changed, the volatility has changed. It's reasonable to expect drawdowns and run-ups, but not of the same nature that you saw, when the industry was unregulated offshore. And the real source of volatility is the cross-collateralization to yo-yo tokens, right?
Yeah.
And what's happening is, as there's less of that and there's more institutional buying and selling and trading, the volatility and the nature of it starts to drift more toward conventional equity assets, away from the crypto assets of 2017. Bitcoin is the one digital commodity, therefore it's the one institutional grade asset. And as it gets embraced as digital gold or digital capital, and as it gets cross-collateralized with the S&P or with sovereign debt, or with real estate or something like that, it'll start to drift toward their degrees of volatility. There's a lot of people that own Bitcoin at 1,000, and when it got to 100,000, they're starting to sell 10% or 5% in order to live. Because I think the situation right now is Bitcoin is a $2 trillion asset class, but it's an underbanked $2 trillion asset class. So if I had $2 trillion worth of Apple stock, I could get a margin loan, with a 50% plus advance rate at SOFR plus 50 basis points, and I could finance $1 trillion or $1.5 trillion of it. And right now, if you look at the amount of Bitcoin that's financeable, it's like not even 5%. So if you're an OG crypto holder and you got rich and you're a billionaire on paper, you might be able to borrow money at 12, 13, 14% interest, but you got to jump through hoops and you can't get it from JP Morgan. So for them, if they want to buy their whatever house, jet, put their kids through college or whatever, they're going to sell. So I think there are people that have held, from 2013 on, and they're at a point where, if you were to say to me, what's your forecast for when you'll be able to borrow against your Bitcoin at SOFR plus 100 basis points from JP Morgan? I'm not thinking in the next 12 months or next 24 months or next 36 months. So I think most of the Bitcoin is offshore, not institutional. Like, what percentage of Bitcoin is held by iBit or my company or Wall Street? Not 10%, 15%. So it means 85% of the $2 trillion is held by individuals, and they can't get a loan. So I think that crypto companies, crypto holders, whatever, if they want any liquidity at all, they have to sell. And then I think there's a lot of hedging and a lot of people, vol traders, and they will sometimes sell. But as a general rule, I think we're boiling our way through this point. The natural sellers are getting the liquidity they want, and at some point we'll be done with all the natural selling, and Bitcoin will surge up again.
The President of the United States has made one of the strongest public statements yet about Bitcoin and the crypto industry, and many investors believe it could have long-term implications. Speaking about America's global position, President Donald Trump said, "We're leading China and all other countries by a lot in AI, and just about every other, including crypto. We want to stay in front in crypto. They'd love to take that over." His comments signal that cryptocurrency is becoming more than just a financial asset. It is now being viewed as part of economic and technological competition between major nations. Michael Saylor believes these statements reflect how the Trump administration views Bitcoin and the broader crypto industry. According to Saylor, Trump recognizes that Bitcoin is politically, economically, and technologically important. He also believes Trump credits part of his political success to the support of the crypto community, which explains why his administration has embraced the industry so strongly. Trump has repeatedly promised to make the United States the crypto capital of the planet, and his pro-crypto policies helped drive Bitcoin to new all-time highs in 2025. However, rising prices tell only part of the story. However, according to USA Today, while Bitcoin's price surged, new investor participation remained limited. Most of the demand came from existing investors and institutions. Saylor believes the U.S. has moved from simply accepting Bitcoin to leading the digital asset industry. If broader adoption follows, Bitcoin's next phase of growth could be even stronger. Let's get back to the video.
So, ergo, every company in the world is capitalized on a capital asset that's bleeding 10% of their economic value every year. And this is the first time we've got one that is positively yielding. And we've only known that without debate. Truth is, what settled the debate? The SEC approving Bitcoin ETFs in January, followed by the embrace of Bitcoin by the Trump administration, followed by the designation that it is the unique digital commodity in the world by David Sachs in March. That's how long, plus followed by the accounting profession mandating fair value accounting, and the Secretary of the Treasury telling banks, and the banks, not just in the US, but by inference, every bank in the world is being directed to start banking Bitcoin by the head of the Treasury, the FDIC, and the OCC. So all of that dates to November 5th of last year. So we're not at the end of the year one. We're in year one of institutional adoption, the inflection point where it's pretty clear it's not going to zero, and it's pretty clear that it's at least as valuable as gold. No one can capitalize on gold, so it must be 10 times more valuable than gold. Nobody can stop it. No one wants to stop it. And yet 99% of corporate executives don't appreciate it. I think that Trump realizes that Bitcoin and the crypto industry in general is incredibly powerful politically and economically and technically, and he attributes a fair degree of his political success to the support of the entire community. So they're very enthusiastic. Every cabinet member is enthusiastic. The Trump administration's enthusiastic. They're going to harness it technically and economically, and that will progress. And I think, the Genius Act, the launch of of stable coins, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, all of those things are indicative. The U.S. went from grudging acceptance of Bitcoin, dragging their heels on everything else, and being fairly indifferent to the opportunity as of a year ago, to enthusiastic embrace of Bitcoin, enthusiastic embrace of all the digital assets industry, and they went to leading the industry, and now they're kind of in the driver's seat. They're probably the most progressive, and other countries are going to have to keep up. If I ran a country and if I had the power, I would print my currency, buy Bitcoin. And after I finished with that, I would borrow money, sovereign debt. I would print debt and I'd buy Bitcoin. But I don't have a country. It's above my pay grade. And countries have a lot of other dynamics. There are a lot of other political actors. You've got your unions, you've got your political parties, you've got the IMF, the World Bank, you've got the opinions of your neighbors, you've got your opinions of your citizens, you've got your opinions of everybody under the sun in the media. And I'm not here to tell you what they can do. I'm an idealist. That's what I would do if I could. But neither am I critical. The truth is, there's a million people that don't go 150% all in on Bitcoin, and I don't judge them for it. Maybe they had a reason to not do it, right?
Bitcoin is entering a critical phase as market signals begin to improve and new trends continue to emerge. While short-term moves may bring volatility, growing interest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and AI-powered innovation could shape the next stage of the crypto market. Staying patient, watching key levels, and following major developments can help investors make smarter decisions as Bitcoin prepares for what could be an important period ahead. Do you think Bitcoin is preparing for its next major breakout? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the latest Bitcoin updates and market insights. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep investing,